This week's episode is sponsored by Electric Collab, a psychology-based branding and web design studio that positions founders to win more premium clients with a brand they're wildly proud of. If you want to serve a premium audience, you need brand messaging, design, and a digital presence that reflects the elevated quality of your work. Spoiler alert, Electric Collab is my brand studio. So if a rebrand has been in your mind, I would love to meet you. Learn more by visiting electriccollab.com. Now, on to the episode. Welcome to Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman, a podcast celebrating unconventional choices and asking curious questions through the lens of a happy, child-free life. Every week, I chat with experts on today's most interesting topics, inspiring us to think differently, live intentionally, and find fulfillment on our terms. Whether you're child-free or seeking a space where parenthood isn't part of the conversation, you are welcome here. It's not about comparison, it's about possibility. Let's get curious together. If you follow the podcast on Instagram, you saw me tease a celebrity status guest that I feel so fortunate to have on the show. And today is the day she's here with us. Victoria Song is a private advisor to the world's top performers. Leaders in tech, sports, entertainment, and business, such as Cindy Crawford, the families of LeBron James and Elon Musk, among many others, trust her to remove the invisible blocks between them and their next impossible win. Whether that's a billion-dollar deal, becoming a headlining artist, or a deeply personal transformation. Her signature approach, the bending reality method, blends high-performance strategy with precision energy work, making quantum success inevitable. A graduate of Yale and Harvard Business School, Victoria has seen what's possible when people refuse to settle, and she's going to help us imagine what that could look like in our own lives. And I want to encourage you right now to listen to the end, because you do not need Musk-level money to work with Victoria, and she has a special offer specifically for us that I don't want you to miss. Welcome to the show, Victoria.
It's nice to be here, Emily. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I am intrigued by you for a lot of reasons, but I find your work incredibly fascinating because of this unique combination. You have almost an academic level strategy side to you, but then you also talk about mysticism and quantum leaps. So tell me, how did you get the vision to combine both sides of yourself into this business supporting high performers?
I think it's just a reflection of what I've naturally combined in myself. So I've always been almost equal 50-50 logic and intuition. And it's the way I navigate the world. And at first I thought, oh, it's just the way I am. But when I went to school with Harvard classmates and Yale classmates and saw how linear minded they are and how logical they are, and in some ways they didn't know magic existed, I started to realize, oh, I do think very differently. And at first it was a little difficult in those crowds. They sometimes look at you like, okay, I thought you were smart. Why do you believe that? But then very quickly I started to realize I seem to get myself and my clients results that are unheard of, that literally don't make logical sense to people. And so I realized, you know what? This is what you're missing. So that's how I lead my work now.
I love that you brought in the smart piece, because I think there is this stigma, and I don't really know where I land on the scale of woo. There's so much that I want to talk about here today to learn more about it. But I feel like there's this thing that you're really logical, intelligent, you know what next step to take, or you're a person who goes with the wind and leads with your gut. And we think that that's somehow a less than approach to make decisions. But I feel like the world is just starting to wake up or open up to the idea that maybe it's actually in the combination that you really get to the next level.
Yes. And I also feel that some of the top performers, whether you're in finance, hedge fund world, we start to realize that intuition is one of the gifts that they all have. And in many ways, them trying to turn their intuition into a protocol that they can then train their teams on is where it's difficult. When I was a venture capitalist, I have a really good intuition on people. I can read people very easily. And that's how at 23, I was able to pick companies and entrepreneurs that were first time leaders, CEOs, and return like 40x to my firm. And I remember my team asking me, okay, I get it that you think we should make this investment and that you think XYZ about the founder, but can you explain and break down the process a little bit more? Unpack that for us. Why do you feel that? What are you picking up? What evidence do you have? What's the data points you're using to form your intuition, your conclusion on this deal. And that was the piece that was almost hard to articulate. And I think that's why sometimes people who are very linear and logic minded don't prioritize it or don't value it or don't trust it, because they feel like if you can't explain how you got to that conclusion, then we don't know we agree with you.
What is intuition?
Intuition for me is being able to read what's not visible to the five senses. So, in some ways, you can think of it as whatever is naked to the visible eye. I think the number is like 60 billion bits of information in every second, but our brain can only process 1,000 per second. So, just think about all that data that we're not able to process that just goes over our head. And those of us who've been able to hone our intuition are able to receive more of that information that's not picked up by your five senses.
Okay, that explanation is helpful. I feel like intuition almost by definition is intangible, as you said, when you can't outline the bullet points of why you're feeling a certain way. What not only makes it hard to lean on it, but I think it's hard to hear it. We get confused in our own mind. Am I making this decision because I have an intuition that I should try this? Or am I trying this because I'm afraid of what will happen if I don't? All these emotions in our mind. How do you help people if somebody's listening and they're like, well, I don't have intuition or I've never heard it. I don't know how to follow it. How do you help people tap into that?
Yeah, I feel that our intuition often has an answer faster than our mind, which is why our intuition can lead to shortcuts that our linear mind would be. We have to do A to B to C all the way to Z. And then our intuition would be, well, maybe I just call this person. And then all of a sudden we're in the right place at the right time. First of all, I want to tell the listeners that you actually always have your intuition. It's just maybe you don't value it and you don't trust it. And then the question you ask yourself is, how do I know I'm not just making this up? And so, because you're asking yourself that question, you've never allowed yourself to build the muscle of your intuition. So, I would recommend using it on low stake matters first, right? So, instead of picking stocks or making huge investments with your intuition to start, I would just have a day, maybe it's Saturday, where you say, okay, let's clear the calendar and just see what we feel like doing. What are we gravitating toward? I don't know. I feel like having brunch here today. And then you run into a neighbor or a friend that you haven't spoken to, right? So just pick these low stake, what do we do on Saturday with our afternoon? And then start practicing, trusting and following it and having fun with, oh, this is so fun to just let myself be led more by what I feel like. It's not what makes logical sense. It's more like I have this pull to go get brunch here. And then I have this pull to text this friend I haven't spoken to in months. I have this pull to check in with so and so. Those pings are really what your intuition is.
Okay, I like the idea of low stakes. When we're dabbling, instead of let me rebuild my whole business based on a feeling I had at midnight last night, I think low stakes is good to get a taste for this. This is how I feel when I consume your content, and I already feel this way in this conversation. It seems like this just comes so naturally to you. So before we get into more of the nuance of how you help people, have you always felt this way? Tell me more of your backstory of how you got to the place where you seem to float between these pieces of strategy and intuition with such ease.
Thank you for reflecting that, Emily. I do feel that in some ways, my book and the work that I do is trying to study the things that actually, like you said, come very naturally to me. And I'm trying to figure out what's my process? Why does this feel like I'm breathing? How do I explain that to someone else? I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs who are engineers and very technical and very analytical and have a very narrow definition of IQ and intelligence. It was basically math and science is all that matters. So growing up, I didn't necessarily feel like the smartest person in the room because I was compared to people who were just peaking on science and data and technical skills. And I would say it took me quite a long time to develop the self-trust to feel, oh, I think differently and it doesn't mean I'm dumb. I'm not weaker in my intelligence. I just seem to have a different way of experiencing my world. And what I think is important to consider and weigh in a decision is just different from what the analytical minded academic trained person is taught. So I think being put into a family where they were constantly worried about my intelligence. If you ask my dad today, he would say, oh, yeah, she wasn't very smart until I tutored her in math. They still have this perception that because my intelligence wasn't like their intelligence, that I wasn't smart. And so that was an identity that I really had to heal in myself because I had to stop comparing myself to people like my family. Fast forward now, it's a beautiful time because I feel that these highly ambitious, successful peak performers, they realize, oh, there's something here. I call it the feminine intuition, the masculine intellect. So there's the logic mind that you can think energetically is more masculine in nature. And then this feminine intuition that is more a natural essence of being a woman, frankly. And a lot of the modalities out there, like breath work and yoga, they're almost modalities created through a masculine framework of how can we get men to tap more into this essence that women actually naturally have, which is why women are more connected to their feelings and their emotions. And being more connected to your emotions is actually one of the first stages to developing your intuition.
Interesting. Self identity seems to come up in almost every single one of these episodes. And it does not matter what we're talking about, but the journey that we each go on, and a lot of us are still on this, of embracing the unique pieces of ourselves in the face of society's expectations, whether that's in our home or in society at large. And clearly, a big part of this show is empowering people to live unconventional lives and take the unconventional path, whether that's deciding not to have kids or doing all these different things. So I agree with you. I think it is a time and culture, which is why I'm so thrilled to see someone like you succeed, where the traditionally smart, successful tropes are embracing this other side and thinking a little bit differently, bringing in unconventional support people and partners. And we're seeing the results. I still think it's rare, but with your results, I mean, I flip through your testimonials and oh my God, literally how? I want it so bad. We all have so many wants. It's unbelievable, this illogical leap. You use the word leap that you're able to deliver.
Yes. One of the lines I like to say is become someone who people quietly study your results, but they can't explain. And you just captured that.
Yes. The intrigue is high because of that illogical piece. And let's talk about that wanting. I don't know if it's new or we've always been here, but this culture of want. I wish I could be like that person over there. I wish I could have my own business. I wish I was making more money. I wish I could find my dream partner. We have all these things. And then when we feel like, well, I'm not getting what I want, I think our instinct is to think it's because I don't know what to do. So we go hire someone, a traditional business coach, or we go sign up to get our MBA. We pay somebody to tell us what to do. Are we focused on the wrong things with that approach?
Yes. So I do feel that it's helpful to pay attention to those pings of, you called it wishing. Maybe for some people, it's even envy or jealousy, right? That is actually a very helpful indicator to us of what we truly want. It's the thing that we maybe secretly want, but it seems so big and maybe not for us that it only gets triggered when we see someone else with it. And then we're like, ah, wait, I want that too. Or maybe I'm just envious and jealous that that person has what I want. And so that's okay to let that lead you into pursuing things. However, your second step, as you mentioned, is then you hire someone to fill that gap of what you think is a knowledge gap. I find that we either make it mean that we don't know how to get that, or we make it mean something about our, you said identity, our self-worth. I can't get that because only other people get results like that. I don't get results like that because I'm not good enough. I'm not educated enough. I don't have the same skill set. I'm not young enough. I'm not experienced enough. Whatever it is, we make up something about why we don't have that result. So I have found that in my world, we throw out all the playbooks. We don't look at and study, oh, what was that company's playbook? What is Apple doing? What's Google doing? We really find what's authentic for you. As I mentioned, my weird superpower of my right and left brain working very fluidly together, that's a superpower of mine. Instead of making myself feel wrong and getting a degree in math and science because I thought I have to double down on my weaknesses, which is what it sounds like your example is, I would say, let's forget your weaknesses. Let's focus on what are your peak super strengths, the things that maybe you haven't even uncovered because you don't value them because you were born with them. And so often we don't value the things that we didn't have to train and study really hard to acquire. For instance, I remember really studying hard. I got an 800 on my SAT math. And That's hard for me. I really had to try and study hard for that. It did not come naturally for me. But then as a result, I felt very proud of it versus other things that I probably would naturally not even need to study for in ACE. I never valued those things. So part of my work with my leaders and my clients is let's get to know you deeply so that your leadership, so that your gifts, so that your zone of genius are very unique to you. And then based on that and your desire of a mission and purpose, what do you want to live out in this lifetime? Let's find that Venn diagram sweet spot of what are you here to live out? What's the impact do you want to make? What are your zone of genius gifts? And then what's the thing that you really love to do that you would almost do for free? And that collection of where that cross sex is what I encourage my clients to focus on.
That sounds not only more effective, but a lot more fun versus white knuckling into the things that we feel like we suck at. And then naturally, when you're focused on that, the energy is living in a place of I suck and trying to work or learn your way out of that. This sounds a lot more enjoyable.
I love that you brought that up, Emily, because one of the things that I have found with my clients is that we have to detox the erosion of their self-worth from years and sometimes decades of them trying to become excellent at something that doesn't come naturally to them. So they develop what some people call imposter syndrome or these layers of not enoughness and constantly competing and never feeling like ahead of your competition because they're playing in the wrong lane. They've been trying to excel at something that is not their zone of genius. And because they haven't been able to outperform in that lane, they decided, well, if I can't do it at this thing I've been trying so hard to do, then I don't even trust that I could really be excellent at anything, period. And now you're telling me to take a leap of faith and trust the thing that I love to do that comes naturally to me is where I'm really going to make a lot of money and be very successful. I don't believe you. Maybe until I can prove that I'm really successful in this lane of banging my head against the wall, will I then allow myself the permission to do something I love? And I'm like, no, you don't have to earn the right to do something you love. You can actually know and trust that you're going to be more successful if you go there and pivot faster.
Why do you think we're like this? Why do we spend so much time? Or why is our instinct to start by doing hard stuff and thinking we have to prove ourselves there before we have earned the right to have fun?
I do feel that it's probably parental in some ways, and then it's also the school system. So obviously, unlike an iPhone that gets updates every quarter or every month, we don't get software updates on our programming when we're born. I wish we did. I wish as soon as the nurse handed you to your mom, that you have to ask the question of, would you like to rewire her and update all her money beliefs and basically deprogram ancestral lineage of trauma and wounding and limited beliefs? We don't get that opportunity. And so in some ways, our parents are just trying to keep us safe and give us opportunities they didn't have. And for our parents' generation, our grandparents who lived in conflict and war and really hard environments, they're still trying to teach us to put safety above all else, to put certainty above all else. And this idea of just put your head down, work really hard, and then maybe one day you'll retire with enough money. And it's not bad or wrong. It's just all they know, right? So that's how parents are parenting. And then the school system, based on the way that they make you learn everything, including topics you don't care about, and then you get graded and it's really based on, oh, let me red marker what you got wrong. And then now you have to perform better and now get a tutor. It's not let's get you a mentor in the things you peak on. It's let's get you a mentor for the things that you're weak on. So if you're not performing well in math or science and you're really good at art, instead of getting you an art tutor, we're going to get you a math tutor, right? So we have this mindset in school if we have to improve our weaknesses to raise our grades. But then we're also trained to care about topics we don't care about in school. And then we're also trained that homework is work. And we're starting to already condition people to feel like you have to do things you don't feel like doing. You have to do things that feel like homework. Oh, so boring. That doesn't matter. You have to prioritize that. So then now we're learning that, oh, to prepare for the real world, to prepare for the workforce, I have to be used to doing things I don't want to do. I have to be used to doing things I don't care about. So we're just very programmed very early on to feel like this is just the way to relate to work. This is the way to relate to progress.
Dang, that is so true. Hearing you say it, I'm like, yeah, no wonder. And I have a business outside of this podcast. I'm in all these entrepreneurial groups, right? And I hear sometimes a coach or something say, it doesn't have to be hard. try to build your business thinking that this isn't going to be hard. This doesn't have to be hard. And especially when I was earlier on, I almost found that offensive. I was, what the heck? This is my livelihood. This is my reputation. Of course it's going to be hard. I'm working harder than ever. I'm working around the clock. And then it's almost triggering when somebody like you comes in and says everything that you're sharing. And it's triggering because that's what I want so badly, right? I want to lean into the things that bring me joy. But this conditioning, which you just illuminated how early it really starts, it's really hard to believe that it's possible to accomplish XYZ thing and let it feel easy. It's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it's true. I would say that that's why I don't even say on my website, we're going to do it easier, because I feel like most people just either get triggered by it or don't believe you. They're just immediately like, I don't trust you. Anyone who's trying to sell me success that comes easy, I don't even believe it, right? So let's not lead with that language. Really, what I think draws people into my world is more, wow, I want quantum leaps. I want to bend my reality. I want to make my impossible probable. And so then the outlier results are what sell them. And then when they learn the process, they're like, whoa, not only am I getting the results, but I actually feel better. I don't have to drink to numb out, and I'm not constantly stressed, and I'm not sleeping at night. It's this trick where you get the thing that feels so good, but if I sold it on feeling good, you wouldn't want it and you wouldn't trust it.
What an art. It's such an art to get people, you know what they want, you know what they need, but they don't know it yet. That's all part of the big reveal. And you mentioned bending reality. I know that that is your book, that's your method. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I believe we're always bending our reality. It's just, as I mentioned, for reasons that are subconscious to us, most of us are bending the odds out of our favor because we're in so much contraction. So we're essentially feeling so much urgency, so much pressure. We turn our desires into needs. So instead of feeling like, oh, wouldn't this be nice? Now all of a sudden this has to happen, or else my identity, my self-worth, and my proving I'm worthy, all of that's thrown out the window if I don't make this happen. So I call it toxic fuel that can motivate people. You can imagine, do you get anything done better from white knuckling if you were walking a tightrope? Do you actually perform better, or are you just scared all the time and stressed all the time? If someone put a gun to your head, do you actually think you would think better and your decisions would be better? Or would you just have poor decisions because you're under too much pressure and too much stress, right? So when you hear it that way, you're like, oh yeah, that seems obvious. That's not bending the odds in my favor. And yet most entrepreneurs particularly are operating and making decisions and leading from a contracted place. So what I teach my clients to and the readers of Bending Reality to do is, how can we start to remove contraction so that you start to live in this more expansive place where your feeling is more presence, more gratitude, more fulfillment, more peak performance, more flow state, more, oh, I'm doing what I love. Oh, and it doesn't have to feel so hard. Oh, okay. It starts to feel flowy. And maybe I didn't trust it until I had the firsthand experience of it. But now that I feel expansive, I can see how much easier it is to be creative from here. I can see how much easier it is to see possibilities from here. I can see how being able to make better decisions and have better judgment when I'm not triggered into fight or flight. Oh, this is more easeful. And so gradually what happens is, as you make expansion your default state, you'll start to notice, wow, I'm actually able to bend the odds in my favor. Sometimes I play board games with my neighbors, and there's always someone who's just so lucky and they always win. And when you experience their energy with the game or in life, nothing's a big deal. Everything's fun. And the more they approach life like it's a game, or even better, approach life like they're so grateful to be alive, they love what they get to do, those are the people who are really thriving and seem to walk around with luck.
That's such a good analogy. I just saw this post on Instagram. I'm talking about Instagram a lot today. I'm addicted like everyone else, but I started following this guy and he's just an introvert. I think he's 27, living in Texas. He moved to a new city. And I think his mission is to say it's fine to be normal, right? He's just posting his day-to-day thing. But he does these posts about reframing the day. And it could be, oh, I have to get up so early for work, or it's, I get to see the city before anybody else. It's, oh, I don't feel like walking to work today. I'm healthy enough that I'm able to walk to work, right? Those little reframes. And to your point, the people who appear to just be present, chill, let things roll off their back, see the bright side of things automatically, the world does bend to them differently. And talk about jealousy. I used to look at people like that and be, I just don't get it, right? You seem to be lucky all the time. You win everything. Everything's easy for you. And then I married a person like that, and my husband, I guess I was like, maybe I can't be it, but I can be around it. You start to realize we do have more control than maybe we think on how we approach things. It's not just the personality we're born with, or you're an optimist or a pessimist. No, we can view things differently and maybe do some of that bending and rewiring over time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do feel, to your point of that Instagram post, that it's the meaning we make that shapes our lives. Can we find an expansive meaning wherever possible versus a contractive meaning? So essentially, yeah, we want to be so mindful and so conscious of the meaning we're making in every moment. Because again, you can have the best day ever or the worst day ever, depending on the meaning you made of getting to walk to work, of getting to see the city early in the morning, right? Also, you said it's not really just a personality that's deterministic. I do feel that on some level, we are trained and wired from a safety perspective to want to be right. And being right makes us feel safe. And so, if we're wired to want to be right and then prove ourselves right, whether that's our beliefs or the way the world works or that person's good, that person's bad, we will unknowingly put so much energy into proving that we are right that we would actually make our limiting beliefs self fulfilling. And so, when you realize that we'd rather be right than have a great life, then that's why you have to be even more thoughtful and intentional around the limiting beliefs that you want to change and shift so that you don't just create a whole life where you felt like, see, I knew it. Life is hard. Things don't happen for me. I'm not lucky. And then you've actually created a whole life that reflects your internal belief system.
Wow. I'm speechless because I am hearing so many things that I know I'm doing that I need to work on. Can you share what is a limiting belief? Are these belief blocks that come into our lives?
Yeah. So the most somatic interpretation is just notice anytime you have a thought that makes you feel a little smaller. So whether the thought is, oh, I'm not lucky, or that happens for other people, not people like me, or maybe I'm not going to get chosen, I'm not going to get picked, right? So anything that just makes me feel a limitation in my body, contraction in the body, it's creating a limit in your reality. It's creating contraction in your reality as well. I'll give you a couple examples. Some of the common limiting beliefs are I have to work harder, longer hours in order to make money to be successful. And money doesn't grow on trees, so it requires a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I need to really sacrifice and struggle in order to feel worthy of success, in order to earn success, in order to earn my vacation, right? I have to really struggle and suffer a lot before I earn those things. So, those are some beliefs that are very common that are passed down generationally. That, as you can hear me saying, I already feel like I'm draining my life force energy. It already feels like it's hard. Actually, this is a really fun exercise. I'm going to tell you to do this, Emily, but if you just do this with your hands, tell me a limiting belief that you might have.
I have to work harder and longer to make more money.
Okay, now say that and feel what happened to your hands. Do you feel how heavy that got?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And now say something happy and light that maybe you believe from watching your husband.
Work isn't everything.
Work isn't everything. Okay, say that and feel what happened to your hands.
They feel lighter.
Yeah, you're going faster, right? I'm seeing you
Yeah.
do this. Okay. That's a great way to just test out your limiting beliefs. Anything that makes you feel heavy, that is creating limitations in your reality. You are bending the odds out of your favor. You feel it physically. Your body is, oh, I don't like this. And in other ways, you can think those are not true. Anything that feels heavy and you can't even keep up with it, it's because it's not true, but it's a limiting belief of programming that you've inherited, that you've been conditioned to. And then everything that is true, like we are all love and everyone deserves to do what they love, all of those that feel really good, they also are true. And you can feel that it's very easy to say them and it's very easy to feel them in your body. So you can think of that as all of these beliefs where I feel lighter and faster, those are expansive beliefs. And then anything where I immediately felt slow and heavy, those are all contractions. And so all of the things that create contraction in our being, in our mind, in our physicality, that's going to bend the odds out of our favor.
That truth piece you just mentioned, I feel like that's so supportive, especially for the more logical thinkers, right? And that therapy line that thoughts aren't reality. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. When you share this with people, I'm sure it's eye-opening. And then, okay, now we have to put it into action. What are the big blocks? How do you work through it?
So you're naming it. Step one is identify what is your contraction. Is it that you have a limiting belief? Is it programming? Is it conditioning? Is it even trauma? A lot of my clients, because they're such high performers, it's often correlated with really tough childhoods. They thrive with instability. They thrive in chaos. They thrive in high stakes because that roller coaster that they're used to today was actually what they were born into in their family system. So there's all sorts of reasons. We identify the source of the contraction for you. And then I have such an infinite toolkit today because I've worked with and studied. And as you can tell, I'm so into this and the way my brain works, it's very easy for me to break down, oh, this is why that modality works. This is why that tool works. So I have this really comprehensive toolkit where I know which tool to apply to remove the contraction that's unique to that person. So whether it's trauma or it's a wound or it's limiting belief or it's programming, I have a different tool for that. So then once we remove the tool, almost like removing a cavity, then it's okay, now how do we create expansions your default state? I have different tools that help you rewire your conditioned thought patterns, your feelings, your behaviors, so that your state of being becomes expansive. Those are also a different set of tools to do that. And so really with those 3 steps, you identify the contraction, you remove it, and then you put all this expansive programming in, makes expansion your default state. And then when you're in that place where we talked about feeling grateful for life, feeling happy, feeling present, feeling open to possibilities, feeling peaceful, feeling excited, feeling like any moment you could be pleasantly surprised. It's a gift from the universe. The unknown is actually an exciting, magical place because it's like Christmas morning. What am I going to be surprised with? Versus for a lot of people, when you're in contraction, the uncertainty and unknown is a scary place and you don't want to be surprised. Anything that's not going according to plan is bad, right? And so you just start to become a person who becomes open to life. And when you're open to life, magic happens. But when you're closed to life because you think you have to protect yourself at all costs, that's when you're closed off.
Is there such a thing as being ready for this? Or are we all ready already? And what I mean by that question, sometimes I think, and maybe this is a limiting belief, you can tell me, I'll use myself as an example. When I think about this podcast, I have big goals for this show, right? There's a lot that I want to accomplish, and I'm not a patient person, but I also sometimes think, well, the success will come when I'm ready for it. And I'm grateful for the success we've had so far. I don't know what this sounds like, maybe ego, but if the Today Show called me tomorrow and they're like, Emily, we've discovered your show. We want you to come on and talk about it. Am I even ready for that? Could I handle that moment, that pressure, that visibility or not? So sometimes I think almost like the tortoise and the hare. If I'm the tortoise, right, and I'm just like focused, I'm doing one thing at a time, the expanse will happen as I'm emotionally and mentally available to handle the next opportunity. Is that a limited approach?
I can tell you're brilliant, and I love the question. It's so nuanced. And I would say it's yes and. So, what I mean by that is it's always helpful to understand that manifestation is not a logical linear process, meaning it's not binary. It's not, did I manifest it today? Sure, or did I not? And because it didn't show up today, it means it's not happening, right? We have to understand that, to your point, everything comes in a sequence of events. And part of that sequence is becoming ready and prepared. So, do you have the back end system so that if overnight you 10x your audience, you would actually know what to do with that audience so that they have a positive experience in their first impression of your brand? If you don't have the systems in place and you 10x your audience, they might have a first impression that's so bad they never come back to another podcast episode, right? So it's totally brilliant to realize, oh, yes, I am being prepared. I am shoring up the parts of my business, my systems, and also my own resiliency of working smarter, not harder. So how can I become the leader that can handle that overnight success and know that when people come, I feel ready for it? And trusting that there is no time in the quantum field. Time is a limitation created by the mind. In the quantum field, all possibilities exist and there is no time. So anything could happen at any moment in time. Where the limiting belief comes in is where you think, I need to do these things in a linear fashion before this thing happens. And therefore, it's going to be time before I get found by Today's Show, or it's going to be months out, years out, who knows. So we want to make sure that we're never actually putting an outcome out farther from us because we are entangling too much with the man-made concept of time and thinking that, oh, I need to think about a status quo average of how long things take to heal, how long things take to succeed, right? Part of the reason why my clients get outlier results, including becoming a billionaire in a year of working with me, is because We don't care about man-made constructs such as time. We made up the Gregorian calendar, 30 days or 31 days in a month. The quantum field doesn't care. It doesn't reset every month and think you got to make a new sales number this month. All of the timelines are man-made and irrelevant. But when we become too attached to it, we make the 3D reality more real than, again, what's actually the 60 billion bits of information that are actually happening, which means that we make the 3D more real than the quantum field. So just to bring this down into a logical place, because you mentioned how can we get those logical minded people to understand intuition? In quantum physics, that's actually very much proven through the scientific method that there seems to be this odd phenomenon where the observer affects the outcome. So the idea that there is a wavelength of possibilities, a wave, and based on the observer and our expectation, we collapse the wave into a particle, into a single electron. And that's why we often say Schrodinger's cat, if we don't see it, what's happening to the cat inside the box? Is it dying or is it alive, right? And it's not until the observer expects an outcome that there then is a collapse of all infinite possibilities into one outcome. And so if you can feel the analytical brain that's creating contraction in your system, right? Expecting an outcome, needing something to go the way it does, attachment to a timeline, all that creates contraction. All of that is the observer collapsing a wavelength of infinite possibilities into one outcome. Whereas when you're in an expansive state, where you feel like you're going to be okay no matter what, where you approach life like I could be pleasantly surprised, it could happen faster than I could have anticipated. And I'm not even attached to a specific outcome because it could be this or something even better, right? Feel how lightly you hold it. And from that expansive state, you're actually able to preserve the effect of all possibilities staying in the wave of infinite possibilities.
So much gold in what you shared there. And I think that piece of detachment is so key. Going back to the school system and then even through careers, somebody just asked me this on a networking call yesterday. This almost force to quantify, where do you want the business to be in 5 years? What's your long-term goal with this show? How many clients do you want to help next year? It's forcing us to put things in a box. And that's just how we measure goals. And then we think, well, if you don't have those things figured out, you don't really have goals. You're not really trying. And it is so limiting. I hope whatever happens to the show, to my business, to my personal life, I hope it's better than I could ever even think of right now. I want to live to be like 105. Who knows what the earth is going to be like? And I don't want to sit here and spend my time imagining or trying to guess how long will it all take and when will it all happen. I don't know. I hope that it blows my mind several times over. And I just think we're never taught that. We're never given space to think like that.
Yeah. So if you feel into that feeling of I want it to blow my mind and I want it to surprise me and be way better than I could have anticipated or expected, my best plans, you're going to be a match energetically in the quantum field. You're going to be entangling with better, higher outcomes, like your highest timeline. And it's going to be beyond what you could have put on a vision board. So just as I mentioned, our mind is so logical, our mind is so linear. The clients that I work with, the results that we get, if they had put that on their vision board, my client could become a billionaire at age 40. If he said, Victoria, I'm hiring you because I expect you and I want you, and for it to go according to plan and be successful, you have to make me a billionaire within a year of working with you. Oh my gosh, not only would we have not gotten there, but the whole process and journey would have felt so tiring and contracted, and everything would feel like not enough every day. And not only that, but sometimes the big, audacious goal that's actually possible for us would short circuit our brain because our brain would immediately be like, wow, that's too big. How am I going to make that happen? So it's like we would psych ourselves out if we were really aware of what's truly possible for us. And so in some ways, we're not really meant to know what's really possible and in store for us, because if that client was told he'd be a billionaire in a year, he might actually sabotage his plans because he would be so freaked out being, I don't know how to do that. How am I supposed to do that? What if this isn't the right thing? I don't know how, therefore I can't. What am I supposed to learn? Maybe I go back to grad school, right? And he would have psyched himself out if he really knew what was possible for him. So instead of getting too attached to our minds, plans, and expectations and what we believe is possible for us, what if we did what you just said, which is to trust that there's something even bigger and grander that we couldn't even imagine? It's bigger than our grandest visions for ourselves. And what if every day we just hold the possibility that we're going to show up and do what we feel called to do, led to do, inspired to do. And we're going to show it big in our courage, show it big in our work ethic, whatever you want to call it. We're going to care deeply enough to keep showing up, trusting that plus knowing that it gets to be bigger than we can imagine is the perfect recipe for an outcome that gets to blow our mind at the end of that process.
And hopefully you enjoy it along the way.
That's the key. Yes. Thank you for that. You're going to have so much more fun because it feels like I enjoy what I do and I'm not overly attached. Because my clients who are overly attached to when this is happening, usually that's a sign to me that they're out of alignment, either in the way that they are leading their business and the strategy, or maybe they're not even aligned with that mission anymore. It was a business they started 10 years ago and it's not who they are, who they've become. They've outgrown it. So the people who are overly attached to why hasn't this happened yet, it's usually a sign to me that they're miserable. They don't like what they do and they're out of alignment with what they're doing. So all they're trying to think about is, come on, let's go, let's sell this thing already. Right. And those same clients, when they start to work with me and we clear up all the places they're out of alignment in their business, that misalignment creates contraction. And we get them back into this flow where they love their work, they love the impact, they love the products that they're creating, they love the mission of the business again. They're having fun again. That's one of the things they often say is, I hated my business and wanted to sell it yesterday. And then after we worked together, not only am I now a 9-figure entrepreneur, their business is making $150 million this year, but you've actually made me re-fall in love with what I do. I launched my favorite product in the company's history and I'm actually having fun again. And a year ago, I was drinking myself to sleep every night and I thought I'd never have fun again. It's just like this whole new relationship. But again, I can't lead with them the copy. If I tell you you're going to have more fun, making more money and be more successful than you ever imagined possible, you'd be like, that's not real. That's unbelievable. I don't trust it at all. But that's really the outcome. That's why I feel like you come to me for the money, but then at the end of it, what you really truly celebrate is that you finally love your life again.
It's all part of that mind-blowing reality, right? If you lead with the end that we can't really conceptualize yet, it's too big and too scary. But if you just give us a little bit, you give us a taste and we want more. We talked about strengths and weaknesses, but this fun, falling in love, joy, fulfillment. I love it when I hear stories of entrepreneurs, or not everybody listening to this is an entrepreneur, but whatever you're focused on in your life in the state of achievement. I love when I hear people say, thank God that original idea didn't work out. Thank God I failed at that first business, because if that would have worked, I would have been miserable for 60 years. That quote unquote failure is what opened space in your life, or that layoff or whatever, to find the next thing that you didn't even see coming. Do you spend time with your clients? Do you feel that a lot of us are out here existing detached from our purpose or alignment, whatever that thing is that actually nourishes us? Have we lost touch with that?
This is where it gets a little metaphysical, but the 3D plane, this physical reality, the language of the physical reality is action, but the language of the spiritual realms is actually joy, what lights us up. Have you seen that movie? What's the Disney Pixar movie about Soul?
No, and I need to. Okay, I'm writing it down.
Yeah. So anyone who's tuned in to that movie, it's a really great illustration of how when we were born, we have these seeds planted into us. We were born with our callings. We were born with what lights us up. And that's actually our signpost of, oh, I need to follow what lights me up. And if I do that, I will actually fulfill what my soul came here to do in this lifetime. And so our soul speaks in joy and what lights us up. And then the way that we show our soul, our spirit, that we are listening is that we then take action in the earth plane and the 3D plane toward those things that light us up. So when I feel like, oh my God, I just heard the most beautiful piece of music and I'm inspired to listen or write music or play music or dance to music, whatever it is. If I felt that lit up from within, but then I didn't act on it and I didn't do anything, I didn't add music to my life, that would be, in a way, me not listening to it. As you said at the beginning of the call, what's intuition? Well, it's being able to listen to those pings, what lights me up. There's something here that's pulling me toward music. Okay, well, what if I take action to it? Okay, now I'm going to hire someone. I'm going to go to school for music. I'm going to make music a part of my daily rituals. I'm going to dance every day. I'm going to dance once a week, whatever it is. If we take action toward it, we start to live more in alignment. So then we start to create a life that reflects what our soul actually intended to live. And so I love this expression of my soul had a dream and my life is it. And every day my practice is, how can I become in deeper alignment with really what was the dream my soul had when it chose to come here in this lifetime?
Okay, I have to take that on a quick tangent to the child-free space, because as you were talking, there's room for me to step into that thinking, that mindset a lot more in my life. I want to celebrate everybody who's listening to this who has felt into that in the choice of being child free, because I do think it is an intuitive led decision for those of us who are here because we chose it.
It's not social programming.
It's not social programming. It's not the life archetype that we see modeled most. For most people, not what our personal circles expected from us. So, feeling into that on a pretty life altering decision, I never say stuff like this on here, but I think it's important to just celebrate that because it isn't easy. And the way hearing you describe that piece of music, right? This is that even bigger. And if you aren't available to hear your soul craving this lifestyle and you wouldn't have gone with your intuition, even if it felt hard tangibly to do that, imagine what we would be sacrificing to live in a life that really was not meant for us.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, just to tie it all back, it's so important to do this work to get into touch with your authentic truth around what do you choose to believe? What paradigms do you want to live in? Because there are examples of every kind of limiting belief out there. If you believe work harder, longer hours is the only way to succeed and retire one day, you have plenty of examples of that. And you can live in that paradigm if you choose. And that's why whatever our beliefs are become our path of least resistance to manifestation, meaning if you believe the way to make money is to marry into money, you're probably going to marry into money. If you believe that the way to make money is to become an entrepreneur and make your own money, that's probably what you're going to do. If you believe the way to make money is to invest in real estate, that's what we're going to do. Whatever your beliefs are, what you're going to make self-fulfilling. It's so important early on, wherever you are in your journey, to all of a sudden pause and say, I've believed this my whole life, but did I actually create a life in response to that belief that I love? And if I don't love my life, then what do I need to change in my belief system? I often say in my world, if you want results to take time, then focus on changing your actions. But if you want results to be in no time at all, think about what belief systems you need to change so that you can create those outcomes faster for yourself. Right. And so again, there's going to be different paths of, okay, maybe the way to get my results is to go to grad school. Maybe to get my results is to have more courage. Maybe the way to get results is to change my actions. Or what if it's deeper soul searching work? What am I consciously choosing to believe is possible for myself? What am I consciously choosing to believe about my worthiness and my deservingness? What am I consciously choosing to believe I'm worthy of the love of my dreams or the success or the dream company? Or if you want to have family, whatever it is for you, trust that you get to create a life that is so unique to you, so unconventional, so atypical, so non-traditional. And in some ways, I believe that we are so multidimensional that we are bigger than what this sort of linear 3D reflection is, that most people want to put you in a box because it's safer and we want to make logical sense of people. We want to say, you're this type of person. We'll put you in that box. We'll put you in that box. And then as soon as you realize, actually, I'm so much bigger than these boxes, I'm so much more multidimensional. The life I'm here to live is so much greater than these, what I see role model to me. And for a lot of people, they're going to be scared for me. They're going to be like, oh no, are you sure about that? That seems like you're going off the paved path. And it's not going to be harder for you because you're going uphill and you're like, no, it's okay. Don't protect me. You don't need to protect me into convergence. I don't need to do what is normal. In fact, I'm going to be happier and safer pursuing what is uniquely true to my heart and my soul. Sometimes the tension, as we talked about, that our parents want our safety above all else. But if we protect our safety above our dreams, we're going to have a very small life.
Yes. Victoria, I'm sure at this point in the conversation, a lot of people are listening like, great, how do I work with you? Teach me, guide me, help me. Because everything you're saying is just so compelling. So tell us about the GOAT method.
Oh, yes. Okay. So the GOAT method is the most favorite masterclass. And I run so many masterclasses, there's dozens in my world. But over and over again, my clients are, I love this because I can recommend it to people who have any kind of goal. So whether your goal is health or money or business or romantic partnership, this is the method I always recommend them. And so that's one, why it's a favorite. And then two, it's a really great mix of how I talk and I teach about frameworks. So there's a new paradigms, new ideas, new beliefs that you probably heard here in our conversation. And as you're probably wondering, well, where the rubber meets the road is how do we then change our life? What's like the somatic practice? How do we embody what you're saying? I then take people through actual experiences to embody what I'm teaching. So the reason why people love the GOAT method is because it's not just intellectual fodder where you walk away feeling inspired and like, oh, wow, I learned some new things. You actually walk away feeling from the inside out transformed. I now know what it feels like to clear out contraction in my body. and what it feels like to access a higher level expansion. And now I'm coming out of the masterclass feeling expansive. So because most people who do my work just don't want to just learn it, they want to embody a state change. Then that masterclass is really the best combination of learning and embodying a new state change.
That combination is everything. There's no shortage of information. We're in an age of more information than ever, and that doesn't seem to be helping. That doesn't seem to be fixing our problems. So that is amazing. There's a link in the show notes for anybody who wants to take part in that masterclass. I am signing up. I'm doing it. If you do it, DM me. We'll do it together.
Yes, I love that. A little challenge. Take your community through it. And it's called the GOAT method because, as you hear, I work with the greatest of all time across industries. And it's the one that works whether you're an athlete or you're a model or you're a tech founder or whatever it is your dreams are.
It's perfect. I cannot wait to do it. And you guys, it's $147. Sometimes when we talk about Cindy Crawford, it's is this going to be accessible to me? Yes, it is. And I'm dead serious. I would love to do it together. Thank you for sharing it with us and our community.
You're so welcome.
Before we officially close, Victoria, is there anything important about this work that we haven't talked about yet that you'd like to share?
What I like to do is to meet everybody where they are in their journey. And that is why I work with people whom, for some, I'm the first personal development person they've ever heard of and the first book that they've read. And then for other people, they're like, I'm decades into this and I've read every personal development book out there. And whoa, the way you present it. And that's why the same message needs different messengers. I suppose what I want to say is wherever you are in your journey, whatever your goals are, I would love to support you and meet you where you are. My private one-on-one clients, they're definitely investing at high levels. And I've intentionally, since my book came out, created every access point essentially so that wherever you are, there's something hopefully for you. I hope that if you feel called, inspired, if you feel expansive listening to me, that's probably the number one sign. I sometimes get people who their logic brain is, how are you getting those results for people? So I'm curious, I want to come work with you. But then when they hear me speak, because it's so foreign to them, they get into a lot of contraction. You can just go read the poor reviews of my book online to know that those people felt very contracted reading my book. If you're in a lot of contraction on this podcast, I'm probably not the right person for you. But if you tuned in and you were like, wow, I feel so expansive, then that's probably the proof that there's alignment here. So it's always my goal to really work with the people who are aligned and to trust they'll find me wherever they are on their path when it's time for them.
It's a beautiful invitation. Thank you for sharing that with us. And yeah, I learned that lesson that to be a magnet, you also have to repel. None of us are for everybody. That's how the world works, and that's okay. But I know there are people listening who are going to be excited to step forward. So thank you for sharing the GOAT method. Thank you for sharing all of this. We will make sure that all of your links are in the show notes so people can easily connect. I'm so grateful to know you and really, really admire your work. I think it's necessary for the future of the world.
Thank you so much, Emily. And I hope I get to support you.
You will. Thank you for listening. Now I want to hear what you learned. DM me on Instagram at Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman or leave a review with your top takeaway. These ratings really do make a difference. If you're not a member of the Curious Life Club yet, you are invited. Visit CuriousLifeOfAChildFreeWoman.com to join the conversation, share suggestions, and be first to know the next curious topic. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next week.